Welcome into part two of our episode about best promos and segments in AWA history. My name is Chris Tubbs. Let's bring back in Mick Karch. And Mick, I know we had planned to do this in one episode, but I could tell within 15 minutes we were not going to be able to get it in because we could have if we wanted to, but then we'd only be talking maybe 45 seconds, maybe a minute at most. I feel like with all of these suggestions, these listener suggestions, most of them are your listener suggestions. I felt like we would have been doing them a disservice and the segments, the performers, the wrestlers themselves a disservice if we just would have gone like boom, 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 boom. So we got about a little less than halfway through and just kind of explain to people what it is that we're doing because we're going to talk about them, but you're not actually going to see them. Can you kind of explain to people why we're doing it the way that we're doing it?
We have to. I mean, we're kind of pigeonholed. We can talk about all the AWA memories, the old great promos and TV angles and so on and so forth. When it comes to actually airing the footage, we're stuck because a lot of that footage we do not own the rights to. A lot of it is out there on YouTube, but we don't have the luxury of just presenting it to you here. So I know we're going to trigger memories with people. When we ask for your suggestions, people would write us and I remember I got such a kick out of the time that.
Yeah.
That's the way we want to approach this.
Yeah, and you can find it on YouTube. If you can't, go to Peacock because WWE bought the rights to the footage. And they might have it on there. I know they did a better job at WWE Network. I don't know if it's on Peacock. I know it's been hit and miss with some of the stuff that they've been putting on there. And hopefully down the road, we'll be able to have maybe like a watch along if we can find some episodes that are out there that maybe we can just kind of, go through and we can watch. But as of right now, we'll talk about it. We've got a few pictures that we'll put up, but we don't have the ability. And again, I'm sorry. I wish we could because it would add so much more. But unfortunately, legalities preclude us from being able to do that. Before we get into it, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing I want to say too. We've had some people, not a lot, but some people have said, "Hey, you guys get a little silly once in a while." You know what? That's the idea. We are not going to sit here and give matches 4.5 and 5-star ratings and whatever else. We're not going to talk about contract negotiations. Not denigrating any other podcast out there. But there's a lot of other places you can hear that stuff about modern day wrestling. The AWA is memories. A lot of it people remember. Some maybe they're enlightened.
And it's subjective. And this is all subjective too. Let's remember this, Mick.
Absolutely. And we're having fun with it. And that's the idea. That's what we want to do here on Tuesdays is have fun remembering the AWA. It's an era we can't get back, and let's just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, and if you want to enjoy it and you want to do it in person, Mick, there's a perfect opportunity coming up in just a few days. Here's your chance. If you're a fan of it and you're able to make it on October 29th, I'm telling you guys, don't wait. And I'm not just trying to shill for tickets here. I'm not like, hey, come to the reunion, please. Here's the deal. There has been such an overwhelming swath of warmness about this podcast and people wanting to relive some of these memories that, Mick, you've gone through the extensive work of getting a lot of these individuals and lining everything up. Tell us exactly what's going to happen in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days. 4 days. What's going to happen? And tell them why it's important that people get on this early because I don't want you guys to be left out. I really, really don't.
Well, tickets are at a premium in terms of seating space. Seating capacity is limited. In terms of, the food and so on and so forth, working with the Embassy Suites in Bloomington, Minnesota on American Boulevard. We're going to be in the ballroom there from noon to 4 on Saturday, the 29th. If you get your tickets in advance, you are absolutely guaranteeing that you are going to have one of the appetizer buffets. You're going to have a place to sit. This is a jam-packed 4 hours. I cannot explain to you enough or emphasize enough. Not only are some AWA celebrities from the past going to be on hand, signing autographs, posing for pictures, talking to the fans. We're going to have trivia. We're going to have raffles. We're going to have merchandise vendors. It's going to go by so fast. I want you to be there. Get there. Get your tickets in advance. Go to Slick Mix Old School Wrestling page or the AWA Unleashed fan page for all the details. So your name is on a list by the time the event starts on Saturday, and you don't have to worry, am I going to be able to get in or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can see on the scroll down there, join our AWA Unleashed fans page, because we're over 1,000. It's mind-numbing to me to think that there are over 1,000 people that want to be part of a Facebook group dedicated to this podcast. Absolutely. And a big shout out to Brian, to Jeremy, to Brandon, to you guys for doing a great job and being able to allow us to bring this information and have this fun with you guys. And here's a chance that we can all do this together. It's a big old party on October 29th at the Embassy Suites. I'm telling you guys, come on down. If you can make it, $25 gets you in the door and you get a chance to meet these folks. You can't get any better if you're an AWA fan than that.
And we want to meet you.
Yes, we do. We want
to shake hands with you and find out, who's putting up with our nonsense every Tuesday. So please come on out. You won't be disappointed. Noon to 4 on the 29th.
Yep. So there we go. And hopefully we'll see as many people out there as we can. All right, Mick, let's continue. We're a little less than halfway, but again, you're going to bring these up. Some of these are listener and your suggestions. It's subjective. When we talk about this, you might not necessarily agree with it, but these are subjective, and that's what makes this fun. So, Mick, without any further ado, I'll let you kind of set the table for the second half of this episode.
This first memory, if you turned away from the TV screen, you missed it. It happened that quickly. And to this day, I don't really even know how it happened or why it happened. The AWA television show on a Sunday morning, they were presenting and promoting the card for later on in the evening. And all of a sudden, Ric Flair does a cameo in the interview area. And he's talking about, how he went through Vern Gagne's training camp and the Nature Boy is back in town and so on and so forth. And he's kind of denigrating what's going to be happening later on in the evening, which prompts Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell, of course, to get in his face. Greg slapped Ric Flair, said he was a crybaby going through Vern's training camp. The interesting thing about it is it went nowhere. I went to the arena that night expecting to see something evolved with Ric Flair, and it didn't. So I don't know if I'm guessing Rick may have been in town visiting his parents and just went by the TV studio and they said, hey, you want to do a little quick promo here? But nothing ever came from it outside of the fact that Greg Gagne, of course, got his shot in on Ric Flair. Very interesting indeed.
Well, why do you think they would have allowed? I mean, I understand the name Ric Flair, but why would you bring it in, have it there? Because then you're going to have fans set up. It's like, hey, you could have something big, and then it doesn't happen. To me, it's like all you're going to do is disappoint the fans when you start to get. And in that age, I got to imagine that there weren't a lot of things that were, quote unquote, behind the scenes. Like this might have been a peek behind the curtain that maybe nobody had seen. Like you could have done something really special.
That's the thing. I honestly don't know what the motivation was because it went nowhere. And I'm sure there were a lot of people like me who went to the Civic Center or wherever it was expecting to see Ric Flair. And it went nowhere. So, just one of those mysteries of the AWA, of which there are many over the years. But
maybe Flair being Flair, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been. But Greg got his slap in, and that's what it was all about. So there you go. Moving on. Talk about politically incorrect. Back in the day, with Wahoo McDaniel and various other native wrestlers, it was pretty much commonplace to get a little racist, a little bit, a little edgy in terms of their heritage, where the heels would go after them. Maybe there was, tear apart the headdress or what have you. And back in the day, a tag team of Larry Hennig, who of course became Luscious Lars Anderson, and his tag team partner Buddy Wolf. There's Larry Hennig, aka Luscious Lars, and they were two Minnesota guys, went to college together. Great heels in the AWA back in the day, and they had a feud with Wahoo McDaniel, and they did one of those things again where there's a headdress, ceremonial headdress being presented to Wahoo on television. They tore it apart. They put the hurting on Wahoo. And what's interesting about this, Chris, and we've talked about this before, talk about how times have changed. I believe it was Buddy Wolf who would come out on TV with a T-shirt that said, "Squahoo is a loser." Not Wahoo. Squahoo is a loser.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Man, back in the day, talk about pushing the envelope. In this day and age, you'd never get away with it. But back in the day, it was what they called cheap heat in the wrestling business. But the feuds were tremendous between Hennig, Wolf, and Wahoo and assorted partners. But I would guess, again, probably in pretty much any territory he ever wrestled and went in as a babyface, Wahoo probably went through the same kind of a program with the resident heel.
I mean, how do you feel like Wahoo felt about having to use the headdress as part of a story and having that, like, I don't want to say denigrated, but just having it violated and vandalized?
You know what I think? I don't think he cared. I don't think back in the day it was all about money.
I was going to say, yeah, as long as you could draw some money, then it really wouldn't matter.
Chris, it's no different. Americans, we were fighting the war against the Germans and the Japanese, 30 years after the war ended, and so wrestling was topical, and there were really no limits. And I'm sure if you would have asked Wahoo back in the day, Wahoo would have just said, "Hey, you know what?
It's business.
We filled the building."
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. I'll worry about my pride and my ego another day. Right now, I gotta eat.
Yeah, I know the next one coming up is another one that maybe folks a little bit closer to my age remember.
Mr. Saito, who legitimately was one of the toughest guys ever in a wrestling ring, a former Olympian, and talk about a one rugged SOB. There's the photograph, one of the more memorable moments in AWA wrestling history. And that's Mr. Saito, and he is going to be presenting Hulk Hogan with some ceremonial flowers and I believe a trophy as well on behalf of the Japanese people. And of course, it's legendary, and Saito was brand new to the AWA at the time. This is how he kind of made his entrance. It's legendary that when Saito bowed and then Hogan went forward with a bow of his own, the salt went into the eyes. The old, nasty Oriental tradition of throw salt in the eyes and then take the trophy and hit Hogan right in the sternum with the trophy. And Hulk had a scar after the fact. That was the way Mr. Saito was introduced to the AWA. And what was kind of interesting about it, it evolved into more than that, because when they started wrestling each other at the St. Paul Civic Center, out with Mr. Saito came Dr. D. David Schultz to start his own feud with Hulk Hogan. And of course, in a matter of weeks, months, both Hogan and Schultz were gone. Went to the World Wrestling Federation, and so it really kind of cartwheeled into a big thing. But one of the more memorable moments, and man, I tell you, Hogan was so damn over as a baby face. They wanted to kill Saito. The intensity was palpable.
Yeah, and again, you don't bring a trophy into a wrestling ring because only bad things are going to happen. We found that exactly if we didn't find out from the very beginning of a last episode, you can't have pastries, you can't have a wedding, and you can't have a trophy. Those are the three things you can't have when it comes to wrestling. Why are people not getting this?
You can't have rules of any kind.
That's true. You can't have rules.
Let's throw that in there too.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead with this one, because I think this is another fun one that involves one of your good friends.
All right. This one, ladies and gentlemen, goes back to 1970, August of 1970 to be exact. And Dr. X, Dick Beyer, the legendary Dr. X, who would also wrestle as the Destroyer. Of course, when he was here in the AWA, his first run, he was a nasty, nasty heel. As time went on, they turned the Doc babyface, and he had a feud not only with Larry Hennig, Lars Anderson, but particularly with Blackjack Lanza and Bobby Heenan. The blow-off match was at the St. Paul Auditorium, and Doc was going to be leaving on an extended tour, which people did not know. He was going to be gone for the AWA for a while. And Doc was now a face, as I said, and he was going to wrestle Blackjack Lanza, Bobby Heenan. They were going to engage that night in St. Paul. And in order to get the match, the Doc, who had not been unmasked in his entire time in the AWA, nobody had been ever able to beat him and unmask him. The Doc said, in order to get this match with Blackjack Lanza, Bobby Heenan, I will take my own mask off before the match, which he did, and he was revealed to the fans. Marty O'Neill said, former Syracuse University great athlete, introduced him as Dick Beyer. But one thing that Dick said during the promo was, if I don't draw blood from both Heenan and Lanza tonight, may God strike me dead. And talk about a sell. Yeah. That last-minute sell to get people into the arena. And, of course, there was blood all over from Blackjack and Bobby. Dr. X took the mask off, went on tour. Just a memorable moment. Talk about heat in a building. I loved it. I was right there ringside. Just tremendous.
It seems like if you've got a mask gimmick, you do everything in your power to protect your identity, but wanting it so bad and having it mean so much that you're willing to take it off before the match on your own, just to be able to get your hands on these two individuals, just tells me, I don't think I've ever heard of another promo like that. Like, this seems to be, it's the only one of its kind that I've ever known that anybody's ever cut.
Well, think about it. Dr. X, for 3 years, he turns away all these challengers, former AWA heavyweight champion, defends the mask like it's his firstborn son.
Yep.
And in order, as you said, to get into the ring with Heenan and Lanza, he's going to take off his own mask before the match. It was absolutely memorable. One of the great moments in AWA history, going back, 52 years already.
God, think about that. A lot of these, it spans all 30 plus years of the AWA, but to be able to just have these from the 60s or the 90s or the 70s or the 80s, and then go back, to me, it's just, this is what makes this so much fun to do, because no matter what era of the AWA, I feel like there's always a handful of those holy shit sort of moments when it comes to these promos or interviews.
That was one of them.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about one that goes back a little bit earlier than that. Goes back to about 1961. And this is a very, again, it's a blip on the radar, but to me, it was memorable. To the average wrestling fan, did that happen? Gene Kiniski, who we have said is the only man to hold the AWA and NWA singles championships. He is the only one who's done it. And he was engaged in a feud with Vern Gagne. And Vern, of course, was the master of the vitamin sales. He had his own vitamin line, one of which was a liquid vitamin called Geralac. And as part of a promo to set up their feud, Vern is in the ring cutting a promo with Marty O'Neill. Gene Kiniski takes a bottle of Vern's Geralac vitamin, knocks Vern on the back of Vern's bald pate, knocks Vern to the ground, and then Big Thunder Kiniski takes a swig of the Geralac and spits it all over Vern Gagne.
Oh,
I mean, that's almost sacrilegious.
I know, right? I mean, you realize how much, I mean, every one of those bottles, you could be selling that to somebody. That's more
Well,
money you
that's
could
the
make.
thing. That's probably the part that hurt Vernon the
I was
most.
going to say that's what I
Probably
would
the
be most upset about.
$4.95 he could have made on the Cerelac
Yeah,
bottle.
very much.
Nonetheless, what a moment. I mean, Gene Kiniski hitting Vern over the head with the Cerelac, and I'm a teenage kid at the time, and I'm looking at this, and holy shit. But talk about intensity. It worked. It did its job. So there you go. I got another one coming up very, very quickly here. Tiny Mills, the king of the Lumberjacks, one half of the very first AWA Tag Team Champions, along with our friend Stan Crusher Kowalski. Tiny, if we get Tiny shot, we'll bring him up on the screen. Where's Tiny? There he is. Tiny, built out of Camrose, Alberta, Canada. And he was feuding with a man called Man Mountain Campbell. That's the name he used in the AWA area. And I know we've got his picture, I believe, ready to go. They also did a last-minute angle on television before they were scheduled to get into the ring later on that evening at a house show. And I thought this was pretty intense. Man Mountain Campbell, who eventually became Luke Brown, one half of the Kentuckians, and teamed up with Jake Roberts' father, Grizzly Smith, in that combination. Tiny came into the ring with a hammer. He didn't use the claw end of the hammer, but he used the big, whatever the gimmick is on the front of the hammer, and hit Man Mountain Campbell right between the eyes with a hammer as Man Mountain Campbell was delivering a promo in the ring. And again, this was last minute, and people just got in their cars and went to the arena. But again, very, very intense. Think back, you're going back, 60 years.
Yeah.
And wrestling fans are believing everything they're seeing back in the day. I don't know if this was a plastic hammer or not. Sure didn't look that way. So everybody bought it, and that kind of started a downward slide as well for Man Mountain Campbell. But Tiny Mills, King of the Lumberjacks, Tag Team Champion, and nailed Man Mountain right between the eyes.
And I get queasy just thinking about getting hit in the. I don't care if it's a gimmick hammer or not. I don't want any sort of a hammer anywhere near my head, and to do it like right between the eyes. I mean, that's committing to the bit for the promo for sure.
That's intensity. You got it.
All right.
One of my favorite promos took place in 1971, I believe, and it was on television. And Nick Bockwinkel had just recently, like within the last 6 months or so, arrived in the AWA area. And he started a feud with talk about your white meat babyface, Paul Diamond. And there's Paul. We call him the original Paul Diamond, not to be confused with the Paul Diamond, of course, who teamed up with Pat Tanaka in later years.
In Bad Company, yeah, exactly. And thank you for saying that, because I think some people are going to be like, well, that's not the Paul Diamond that I remember, but that's the Paul Diamond that you are referring to in this promo, in this part.
This Paul Diamond was a tremendously popular guy with the ladies, of course, and ladies' man, great baby face. And Diamond and Nick are outstanding next to each other in the TV interview. And Diamond, I believe it was Nick who had injured Diamond's knee prior to, maybe the week before or what have you. So Paul Diamond is on crutches, and Nick is standing right next to him. And Diamond kind of pleads his case to the crowd about, he's going to get even with Nick Bockwinkel. Mm-hmm. And Nick kind of looks over at him, glances, and then all of a sudden, Paul Diamond disappears from the TV screen like he went through a trapdoor. And what had happened was Nick Bockwinkel, of course, conveniently kicked the crutch out from underneath the leg of Paul Diamond and said he was tired of hearing Paul Diamond with his flamenco-type legs out there whining and crying. So he wanted to make more room in the interview area, and that's how he dispatched Paul Diamond. One of Nick's very first extended feuds in the AWA. Great stuff.
Was that, were you a big fan of his at that? Like, when did you start really becoming a huge fan of his? And then the Bockwinkel Brigade, because because that was your doing. Was that how far into his run before you started that?
Not that far after the Diamond incident. I mean, Nick had come here in the fall of 1970, and I believe this was spring of 71. Okay. And then I started the Bockwinkel Brigade in June of 71. So I was a Bockwinkel fan the minute he got here. I've said that before. The persona was just tremendous. So, Nick was already a favorite of mine.
Okay. I was just, so you like people that take advantage and, that.
Absolutely. Of course.
Yes. Doesn't surprise me.
All right. This next one, I talked about, actually, I posted something about it on the Slick Mick page because it was very memorable in the sense that Ray Stevens, one half of the AWA Tag Team Champions, along with Mr. Bockwinkel. Ray was a good old-fashioned, rough, tough heel. And I mean, Ray was the real deal. There was nothing fancy about Ray, and that was the beauty of Nick and Ray. You had Nick with his eloquence and Ray with his tough guy attitude. And Ray was cutting a promo on Larry the Axe Hennig. And, there's one thing you can extend things just so far. Ray said not only did he not like Larry Hennig, he didn't like Larry Hennig's kids. He hated Larry Hennig's wife. And above all, he hated Larry Hennig's dog. Now, we didn't actually have a photo of Larry Hennig's dog. I don't know if he had a Chihuahua, a German Shepherd, a Doberman. So I think, Chris, we did the best we could. And again, this is probably, artist's conception of what Larry Hennig may have had back at the house in Robbinsdale, Minnesota. We got that photograph.
I'm working on it here.
Is it not there?
Is this it?
Wait a minute. Ha! There he is. There he is right there. I don't know if that's Scooby Hennig or Red Hennig or whoever it was, but I'm pretty sure that is as close to a depiction of the canine that the Hennigs had at the house. But Ray Stevens went as far as to say, I hate Larry Hennig's dog. I don't know what kind of interactions they'd had in the past, but come on.
I mean, you can hate people, but if you hate animals, you're just a jerk. Because everybody, I mean, you've got animals, I've got animals. We love our animals. People that have animals and pets, they love them. So it's like, you can get a new wife, your kids, sometimes they annoy you, but it's like your pets, they're off limits. Is that safe to say?
I think we made the point, and I think it's probably best that we move ahead. But Ray Stevens, yes, I'm sure that Larry probably reported him to the SPCA. But nonetheless, he didn't like Larry's dog.
They could have had a dog catcher match. That's what they should have had.
Could have.
But they didn't, see?
Moving ahead.
Yes.
The guy that I always call the poor man's Mighty Igor, Ivan Putski, came into town, and Ivan, of course, was doing the Polish immigrant who didn't speak a lot of English back in the day. And of course, in reality, he was Joe Benarski from Texas, and spoke English certainly better than I do. But back in the day, Ivan had some difficulty in his promos. He would come out on television and kind of try to get his point across, but he couldn't always do it. But that man right there, ladies and gentlemen, Wally Carbo saved the day. And he, Wally being of Polish descent, Wally was called in to translate for Ivan Putski. And the question that was posed to Ivan was, how much do you weigh? Wally offered to translate for Ivan, and Wally came out and he said, this is a quote from Wally, as he's trying to get Ivan to, speak English. So how much do you weigh? So I don't know if how much do you weigh is the same in English as it is in Polish, but it worked. I've understood. But Wally, ever the translator, offered his services. I'm sure he moonlighted as some translator, and
Yeah.
he came out, and maybe it was the way he said it. Maybe it was the inflection.
Do you think
How
maybe
much of the way? Maybe it was the nasality or whatever that is in Wally's tone, but it got the point across. And I think Ivan and Polish said 720 or 840 or whatever he weighed at the time. But very very moving moment.
see should have waited for Joe Chupik? He
Oh,
would have been able to. I mean, it just would have worked there. I mean, Joe would have been great as like a
I don't
transit
think
manager.
Joe was born yet, but that's neither here nor
Well,
there.
no,
All right,
I know. I'm just trying to, connect it.
moving right along.
Trying to connect it.
Boy, we know how to kill time, don't we? This was a
Killing something.
specific listener question. They wanted to relive the days when the Crusher and Baron von Raschke, in particular Crusher, whenever there was going to be a cage match. I don't know if it was the nearby Lunds or Byerly's or Super Value or what have you, but Crusher always managed to get a tomato. And he would bring it in to the interview area, and there you see the cage, which of course was, just a little piece of fence that they brought in, maybe from George Gadaski's farm, put it up in front of the TV camera, and Crusher invariably took that tomato. I don't know what, I'm not an expert on tomatoes, but he would jam the tomato through the cage, and of course you would have tomato juice and seeds and everything else spilling out all over the floor for emphasis what he was going to do with his opponent. And in later years, of course, he had the Baron to back him up. So I'm quite sure between Crusher and the Baron and the tomatoes and everything else, a lot of produce was gone through back in the day.
Have to get one that is a little more than ripe, because if it's if it's a little past its expiration date, it's going to be a little. That doesn't look like the sort of fencing that you could. I don't think you could put a ripe tomato through that, but I feel like if you got one that's a little more squishy, that's like, maybe a few days past its expiration, I could totally see that working.
A little more squishy, I think, is putting it mildly. I think, it probably had to about be ready to be a tomato juice by the time, it might have served the same purpose for a glass of tomato juice, but very effective. And always, Crusher boy, they would zoom right in on that tomato, that poor tomato being decimated by the Crusher. But, oh, God, that was just memorable stuff. Memorable stuff. We are continuing on. I'm looking here. Yes.
Yep.
Bobby Heenan once again. And Bobby, of course, the master of the one-liner, two-liners, whatever. And one of Bobby's famous promos was about that man right there. The smiling Mad Dog Maurice Vachon, who, of course, wasn't smiling when, he would get in the ring with the Heenan family. But Bobby was talking about a night where Nick Bockwinkel was defending the championship against Mad Dog Vachon. I believe it was on or about Thanksgiving. And Bobby was explaining how you prepare dog as opposed to how you prepare turkey for a Thanksgiving dinner. And it makes perfect sense. Bobby was very explicit in how you prepare dog. He said, you don't put stuffings to it. You don't put mashed potatoes to it. You put the boots to it. And he said, when he's on the mat, choking, you kick out both of his teeth, and that's how you prepare dog for a Thanksgiving dinner. That's how you do it. And I don't know if we got Martel's picture up. I don't recall. Do we have Martel?
Yes, we do have a Rick Martel, I believe.
Put up Ricky Martel because Bobby also was explaining about how Ken Patera was going to defeat Rick Martel. And Rick was a great scientific wrestler. The method to the madness was that Ken was going to rub Rick Martel's face into the canvas for so long and so hard that his eyes were going to swell. Rick Martel's eyes were going to swell, so to the point where he looked like a French fly. And then when he couldn't see anymore, when he looked like a French housefly, Patera was going to put him in the full Nelson and put him away. Bobby had great strategies. I mean, the man was a genius.
And to be able to come up with a different type of interview for different talent that he was with and different people that he's working against, like that is something that you kind of see these cookie cutter promos, right? Like every single time you interchange with people. It's like Bobby Heenan was so unique in the fact that he could create something exclusively that was special just for the program or the situation that they were dealing with.
When the TV director said, Bobby, go out and promo this match, or you're in Rockford working Greg Gagne, they didn't know what Bobby was going to say.
Yeah.
And Bobby probably in that 15 seconds before they turned the camera on was coming up with this stuff. Pure genius, none like the predictable scripted crap that's out there today. This was spontaneous, and Bobby was an absolute master. Loved his stuff.
Yeah, that's why he's littered all over this. And again, this is all subjective. There's no particular rhyme or reason. And if you're wondering why we're not playing the clips, legally we can't. And it's copyright, it's litigated. It's not that we wouldn't want to. It's that legally we are forbidden from playing the clips because we don't own them, and just it's the right thing to do. So that being said, I know we got a few more good ones, Mick. We got about 20 minutes left, so let's finish her up strong.
This is a big one. I mean, this is probably one of the more infamous promos from back in the day, and we're going back to the mid-1980s, and there he is. Talk about the real deal. Dr. D. David Schultz. Ask John Stossel if Dr. D.
You're going to say that seems to me, out of anything that David Schultz is going to be recognized or remembered for, it's for slapping John Stossel.
I would say that right there. Whatever the impetus, whether Vince told him to do it or not, or Dr. D reacted spontaneously, I don't know, but that was a moment. Dr. D, when he got out of professional wrestling, became a bounty hunter. So that's the personality that you're dealing with. But Dr. D had some of the best promos ever. And I remember they were doing a promo for a match in San Francisco back in the day. And San Francisco, as many people know, has a very large gay population, as they did back then. And Mean Gene is interviewing Dr. D. David Schultz, and David is talking about San Francisco, and he said something to the effect of, you know what, I went out looking for a woman. I went out looking for a woman in San Francisco. I didn't find me no woman. I found a lot of men dressed up like women, but I didn't. Now, again, can you imagine him doing that in this day and age? Ain't gonna happen.
No, that's probably one of the most taboo things right now that somebody could say. Like, there are a lot of things I feel that would be taboo, but I feel like that's one that would be like, that to me would be the line in today's. Yeah,
I'm not sure that Dr. D wouldn't deliver the line anyway and really not give a damn what the consequences were. But back in the day, and I know that promo was out there, and Mean Gene is doing his best, to keep from laughing. He started to snicker a little bit, but man, I tell you what, and you had to believe Dr. D. That's the way he felt about stuff back in the day. And, he kind of explained his position. So memorable indeed. Moving on, we talked about Crusher. And, let's put these pictures up individually. We don't want to spoil this. Crusher back, oh, my God. He had the greatest promos in the world. And Crusher is saying to Mean Gene, he asked him, have you ever heard of Stella Windowski? You would like her. Now, Mean Gene, of course, has no idea who Stella Windowski was, but maybe that's Stella Windowski.
Is that Stella right there? That looks like Stella Windowski.
It could have been.
Okay.
But here's the interesting thing about Crusher. Lee, could we bring Stella back up on the screen? I want to bring her back up again. The very, very attractive. We backtrack and bring Stella back up.
Okay, hold on.
Hang on a second.
Stella, where are you?
Hang on a
minute.
There
she is.
Yeah, there she is.
There's that sexy lady.
Yeah, she's got the two-fisted gimmick going. Stella Windowski, whatever her name was, Crusher always amazed me because his standard promo, he would talk about how tough he was. And part of it was he would be hit over the head with barmaids, as Stella was right there. Let's go to the next item, the next shocking item that Crusher would always talk about that he was hit over the head with in bars. Where is it? There it is. Bar rags. Crusher would talk about his toughness because he was hit over the head with barmaids, bar rags, and of course the creme de la creme, our good friend, the bar stool. And I know we're going to get a vintage bar stool up there in just a second, just for emphasis, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the bar stool, I can see that might hurt a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The bar rag, I don't get. And if you're hit over the head with a barmaid, I'm just envisioning all kinds of stuff in my head. How that would,
Stop. No, we're not going there. We're not going there. No.
I'm just asking. Does a guy pick up a barmaid and bring her over to Crusher and hit him over the head like it's a folding chair?
Well, I mean,
you do that
maybe
with another human being?
did he say like picked up and like beat on the head, or did he just say pick up a barmaid?
He said, I've been hit over the head with barmaids, bar rags, and bar stools.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I'm never going to question what the Crusher said, ever. But nonetheless, we had those actual photographs, I believe, from Milwaukee.
Yeah, those are real. Those are legitimate. That's a real Stella Windowski. Or
what? Yeah, AP or UPI probably took those photographs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the day. We're going to talk about another one of my favorite guys right now, who delivered absolutely legendary promos. One of those guys that never ever became a babyface in the AWA for the entire length of time that he was here. And I'm talking about our buddy Sheik Adnan Al-KC. And Adnan, of course, I don't know how angry Saddam Hussein was getting at Adnan over the years, because Adnan always used to say, of course, Saddam Hussein and his people are waiting at the airport in Baghdad for Adnan to bring back a championship. They were going to have a big parade at the airport in Baghdad. And Adnan made a point of always telling us that the barking of the dogs will not stop the caravan.
Ooh.
Now, I mean, see, I get chills.
That's it. Yeah, that is a great line. That is a fantastic line uttered by Adnan.
It truly is. Your highest that and the barking of the dogs will not stop the caravan. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The dogs probably died there on the tarmac because What do you think that meant? The barking of the dogs won't stop the caravan. I think that meant the first 6 or 7 rows at ringside can yell all you want. We're going to win the championship tonight. That's pretty much, the train is going to keep on rolling. Okay. The other thing that I would talk about with Adnan, of course, is whenever Jerry Blackwell was not in town to cut a promo, Adnan would explain his absence by the fact that Jerry Blackwell was out getting a massage. And, he would explain it by saying it took a while, because His Highness has a very big back, and it took 2 or 3 of the harem to rub the expansive back of Jerry Blackwell. And I get it. You're a man that size, 460, 468, 480. But he would explain that Jerry was out and the massage was going to take a while. And that's why Jerry Blackwell was not in the studio.
I would firmly believe that. I mean,
He's got a big back, Yeah, that's...
You know what they say about guys with big backs? Big shirts.
Continuing on, I think we've got 3 more, and we better get through them because we only have a listener and a half left.
A half? How do you get a half a listener?
Why? I don't know. I don't know. My buddy Ken Patera, Ken was a great heel in professional wrestling and delivered some pretty intense promos, but one particular promo, and I don't know if anybody else will remember this besides me. There's the Olympic strongman Ken Patera. Ken was talking about the high flyers, Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell, and he's being interviewed. I think he had Jerry out there with him at the time, Jerry Blackwell, as his partner. And he's being interviewed by Gene Okerlund, and Ken kind of lost his train of thought. And he was talking about Jim Brunzell and Greg, and he became tongue-tied and said something to the effect of, when I get done with you, you're going to you'll be around and you get back on your boat. And he says, shit. And he walks off, and Okerlund, and they didn't cut this. Gene Okerlund looks at him and says, wait a minute, come back here. What do you mean your boat? What are you talking about? Well, Ken never came back. And I'm not quite sure to this day. I don't know if Brunzell had a boat. I'm not sure he did, but Ken was so wound up in the malice that he was going to deliver to the high flyers that he invoked their boat into the conversation.
I mean, we are the land of 10,000 lakes. And I mean, if you're going to take a shot at, it's like taking a shot at somebody's dog. You take a shot at their boat. Like that's, a boat is personal.
Real serious, real serious stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. Okay. Jesse the Body Ventura was talking about Baron von Raschke, and he alluded to Baron looking like a monster from space and calling him E.T. Now, you and I know what Baron von Raschke looks like. He's a George Clooney lookalike. And
I can't tell the difference. I cannot tell the difference.
Except for the name tag he's got there is no difference.
Yeah.
And Baron actually said to Gene Okerlund, do I look like a monster from space? And, as I'm looking at Baron right there, no, I don't think he does.
No.
But
he doesn't look like a monster. Not at all. Extraterrestrial.
I mean, let alone E.T. George Clooney, yes. Brad Pitt, yes. Monster from space, alien, no. I don't see it, and I think Jesse was way out of line when he did that.
Yeah, way over. All right, I think is this the last one we've got here out of the good ones? Haircut.
This is the last one, and I'm telling you, I love Kenny J, one of the nicest guys in the history of the planet, let alone pro wrestling. And back probably 50 years ago, Kenny, who did not win very many matches, I believe this was his first match on television that he actually won. And he beat another enhancement guy by the name of John the Greek. And they made the mistake of bringing Kenny into the interview area to celebrate his victory. Now, Kenny was not a master of the promo by any means. Chris Tubbs, I wish that footage still existed. It doesn't, unfortunately. To this day, wrestling historians and experts have no idea, no damn clue what Kenny J said. He came out and he was celebrating his victory. And he sounded like Jerry Lewis on speed. And I don't know if he said John the Greek in there. I don't say the name Marty. He was addressing Marty O'Neill. Marty, you know, you're back. From that point on, I don't know what was said. But it goes down in the annals of the all-time great AWA promos. All 30 seconds of it. And God bless Kenny. He was like he won the lottery.
You know how you can find out how he, what was in that promo? You can ask him yourself if you go to the reunion on October 29th, coming up this weekend.
What a segue.
You can ask, what was Kenny saying in his win? Because nobody knows. This is the one chance to find it out. Coming up this Saturday, October 29th.
What a brilliant segue.
You like that?
Are we done, or are we going to do those last few? Can you go to the very end
Yeah,
The
we
the very end, the last picture.
and we're talking about is this
Terrible promos.
terrible promos? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Don't put it up yet.
Hold on. No, I don't think I've got it yet. I think I got to go back and grab it because I didn't want to. I wanted to purge it from my inbox. Hold on.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, I think so. Okay.
Guy with a beard.
The guy with a beer?
Beard.
Oh, okay. You didn't give me anything with a beer. Okay. Is this the one?
There he is.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about the worst promos in the history of professional wrestling, that guy right there. His name was Mick somebody, and he was promoting an AWA Supervention event in June of 1984. And they brought him on television to promote the event because the AWA was going to be involved. This was this character's first attempt at doing a promo on television. Poor Ken Resnick had to endure several seconds of this. Talk about a guy who spoke like an Undertaker, looked like an Undertaker, either that or a guy who should have been on a registry of some kind. Talked in monotone, hushed tones as opposed to really putting the event over. I don't know how it happened that made the light of day. Fact, Jesse the Body Ventura did a walk-on at the end of the interview in order to save the promo. It was the last promo Jesse ever did in the AWA.
So you tell me that he was so embarrassed after having to work with that guy. He's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
the quality of talent in this company is so poor. I cannot work with any of these just talentless hacks. Is that what is that?
That's pretty much what it was. I think, Jesse was disgruntled anyway, and when it came to the point where they had him come on and do a walk-on and interrupt an interview for some two-bit clown with a cheap, Salvation Army suit and a clip-on tie, promoting a wrestling event. Jesse had it. That was it. He packed up his Halliburton, and oh, good God. Talk about somber.
Yeah, I need to pixelate that. Hold on, can I?
Yeah, you got to do something because
stop it. Okay, sure.
Talk about the worst promos in history, and I don't know whatever happened to that guy. God knows he wouldn't have made a dime if he went into wrestling announcing.
No.
God's sakes.
He looks like a guy that would put a company out of business. Little did they know that less than a decade later, that would be the guy that would run that company, a once prestigious, loved, beloved, star-studded company, out of business.
You're giving Jeremy Chura more fodder. Please,
facts can't be controversial, Mick. Facts cannot be controversial.
I don't know whatever happened to the guy, but you know what? Good riddance. As far as I don't blame Jesse at all. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We had to put one stinker in there, right?
There you go. And again, you guys, thanks so much for the last couple of weeks of hanging with us because, again, we don't have the rights to it. We wish that we could, but because of legalities, hopefully you guys have been able to get enough out of it that you've enjoyed it. Let's go ahead and give our shout outs, Mick, and then we'll bring it home.
My buddy out in Chicagoland, Stan Payne. Stan, who is a regular listener, viewer of the podcast, and also goes to our Facebook pages religiously. Love you, Stan. Keep up the good work, buddy. I will be having some more memorabilia to sell you next spring.
And I'm going to give it out to Captain Kirk at Hawkeye Kirk on Twitter. Thanks for following, retweeting, and asking questions, Kirk. So there you go. All right, Mick, got a couple minutes left. Want to tell everybody you can see the hat and your hat courtesy of Soda Stick. It's hoodie season, you guys. So if you want your personalized hoodie, it's black with the white logo. You can get your name on it. Go to sodastickco.com. Use the promo code UNLEASHED. They run a little small, so if you're going to get it, if normally you're an XL, size up to a 2X. If you're 2X, size up to a 3X, so on and so forth. If you like the black design with the white logo, with the white print, coming up on the reunion on October 29th, coming up this Saturday, as a matter of fact, we're going to have those available first at the AWA reunion. Soda Stick's going to be there. Very first place that you can get those black t-shirts with the white print, that's going to be at the reunion coming up. Mick will tell you about it here in a bit. And also want to thank 7th Avenue Pizza as well. Perfect time, guys, to we're going to be inside, and you're going to get the oven going and whatnot. 7th Avenue Pizza, it's frozen pizza, but it doesn't taste frozen, right? Like, I love the Lucky 7, the meat sauce, as they call it, the meatball and pepperoni, also great. I have not had one of them that I have not liked. So again, 7thAvenuePizza.com. If you're not in the area, if you're not in the Twin Cities, you're in the Twin Cities. I've heard Holiday, Cub, Hy-Vee, just a bunch of different places, but you can get it even if you're not in the area. And Mick, in about 3 minutes here, tell us about this Saturday, because this is the last time that we're going to be able to talk about this Saturday, AWA Reunion number 2.
Embassy Suites on American Boulevard in Bloomington, Minnesota. And I got to go over the roster again real quickly. Nord the Barbarian, Pat Tanaka, Sodbuster Kenny J, Eddie Sharkey, Tom Rocky Stone, Chris Curtis, Steve Olsenowski, our friend Polish Joe Chupik, Princess Little Cloud, Dixie Jordan coming in from Las Vegas to be at this event, Derek Starfire Dukes, Gary DeRusha, one of the great referees of all time, Lanice Hennig, the widow of the great Kurt Hennig, making her first appearance at one of these events. And, of course, we are going to have the Rick Renslow family, the late, great, wild Alaskan Rick Renslow. We're going to pay tribute to him. They're all going to be there signing autographs, posing for photos. They'll have books for sale, photos, you name it, trivia contests, vendors, a lot of fun, Q&A. You got 4 hours. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be whirlwind, but we want you to be there. Celebrate and thank the guys who were a member of that AWA roster in days gone by.
The reason this is being put together is because I think of the response that people have had to this podcast. Yeah. So, Mick, you've been able to get everybody together and have them in the same place. And if you're like, well, I might want to go, the thing is that seating is limited, you guys. Like, you can't just show up and expect that you're going to have a spot to sit. If you buy your ticket in advance, you can buy it, $25 at the door. I don't think the price is going to change, but I think it's more like you want to guarantee yourself a spot to sit, and you want to guarantee yourself some food. So for $25, get you in the door, get you a chance to converse with these folks. And yeah, I mean, this might be the last time you get a chance to see all of these individuals together. So that's also another reason, Mick, that I would suggest it's one afternoon. I highly, highly recommend that if you're a fan, go ahead and make it out there in some way, shape, or form.
We love the AWA. We have had fun the last couple of weeks with some of the memories. Did a lot of kidding about it, but damn, do I miss those days of the AWA. In a lot of cases, the footage isn't out there. A lot of the guys are gone, but you got an opportunity. Grab a piece of history. The AWA still lives on. Yep. It's coming Saturday at the Embassy Suites in Bloomington.
Yep. And as always, go to AWA Unleashed Fans and Slick Mick Old School Wrestling for more information on that. And I don't know what we're going to do next week, Mick, but I know that we're going to have fun talking about what happened at the reunion. I'm really excited. And hey, I'll see you on Saturday.
You got it. See you, everybody.